Hi, my name's Adrian Beasley and welcome to Coffee Time Lightroom. We're going to take a look now at a problem that commonly occurs when people move from JPEG to capturing RAW images. And you need to be capturing your images in RAW. And if you're not doing that at the moment, go check out my video on RAW versus JPEG. So you've decided to make the jump to RAW. You import that first card full of images, and what you're presented with is rather flat looking pictures. Nothing like as interesting as the JPEGs that you used to have. At this point, some people actually head back to JPEGs. Well, try and avoid that because you'll lose so much quality on the way. Here I'm going to show you how you can set up Lightroom so that those RAW images, when they come in, will look every bit as interesting as the JPEGs you used to capture. So why does this happen? Well, the image that's actually shown on the back of your camera when you capture it is in fact a JPEG image, even if you've set your camera to capture RAW only. And that's just practical reasons. The image that's displayed on the back of the camera is much smaller than the original RAW image. And the camera manufacturers, to a varying degree, make an adjustment on their RAW images just to make them look a little bit more flattering. So the image you saw on the back of your camera just looks better than that RAW image you imported. So what we're going to do is show you now how to set up something called a Develop Preset. A Develop Preset that you will apply to every image that's imported, every RAW image that's imported in fact. And that will allow your RAW images to look much more like the way they looked on the back of your camera. So here's an image I've captured in RAW. And I'm going to head over to the Develop module now. And what we're going to do is just make the basic adjustments that I would expect to make so that this image looks much closer to the way I saw it on the back of my camera and the way that I want it to look. So I'm not going to go mad, I'm simply going to just make some basic adjustments that really lift the image to something closer to that processed JPEG look. So very typically, we see a little bit more contrast with the blacks and a little bit more information coming through in the shadow areas. Highlights would normally protect just a little bit, even if this image doesn't appear to need it. The highlights up here are okay. But here's some very important ones: clarity, and in my case I'm going to go for vibrance as a way of putting in much more punch into those images. And in fact also a little bit of sharpening is usually applied to a JPEG image too. So I'm just going to do that too. Whilst we're in here, pull that masking up just a little bit. That just prevents the sharpening affecting every single pixel in your image. Now that's a set of adjustments which I'll be quite happy to have applied to every single one of my imported images. Now remember, we're importing a RAW image, and also remember that Lightroom never changes the image itself. So really all we're doing here is setting some sliders to make the image look the way I want it. So now I've made my basic adjustments, I want to capture those adjustments. We do that by coming over to the left hand side on the Develop module and finding this panel called Presets. It's towards the top of that. We're going to press the plus sign here, and when you do that, you may get more or less of these tick boxes ticked. Don't worry about that. We're just going to give it a preset name now. Now, because we're going to use this preset as our default import for every image we import, we're going to give it a sensible or suitable name. Actually, this preset is going to be applied for any image I bring in from my Sony R camera. So I'm going to give it a name, Sony R. We're going to file it away under the User Presets folder. I'm just going to check None to just uncheck everything here, and then only check the things that I want to be adjusted. So in here we altered the tone, basic tone. We also altered clarity and some sharpening, and in fact we did a little bit of colour based on vibrance as well. So that's everything covered now. And I'm just going to do Create. What we'll see now over on the left hand side in Presets under User Presets is a preset called Sony R. So we've just created a single develop preset. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that when we import files, that preset will be assigned automatically to be applied to those imported images. So what we're going to do now is go over to the library and we're going to do an import. Let's go find some images. Users and some pictures, and let's take a look at an image that we might like to apply that to. Let's see, here we go. Let's just pick any old image. Let's do uncheck all first of all and just pick any old image. Now here's the trick. Over on the right hand side you have a section here which says apply during import, and this is the critical one. And then you see this develop settings. All we need to do now is go select from our user presets Sony R, which is the preset we just created. Okay. Now when we press the import button, which is at the bottom, let me just collapse all of this down. When we press the import button, which we would do if we ticked the image, what would happen is that image would be imported and automatically the sliders would be positioned according to that develop preset. So this image would automatically adopt the editing that we've just done. But here's the really clever bit. Every single image that's imported will have the same adjustments made. Now remember, those adjustments aren't adjustments to the image themselves, they're just really starting points for those sliders. So once you've done that, that import dialog will remember that setting, so you won't need to select this again next time. And the next time you import a card full of images, every single one of those images will have their sliders put into that default position. And I'm going to just import that now. So it's working away, just importing the image. There it is. And the next thing we'll do, once it's imported, it's also actually doing a smart preview. Thank you very much. I'm going to now select that image, go over to develop, and what we'll find is all those slider positions are now automatically set to the settings that I had before. So now every image in my import will now adopt the look of that preset. That's all for now. Why not check out my other YouTube postings or join me in person on a Light and Land course.